I think I know like you're probably not a huge fan of Trump, and to be honest, I agree with you when you said that Trump is probably not the best person to lead America either. But I think we should also give Trump some credit for just managing the economy, managing geopolitics when he was the president for 4 years. And we had no new wars, and we had uh, and by we I mean America, but like even though I'm Canadian, but I'm just saying we, as in maybe the collective West as a whole, America has performed like economically really well when Trump was in charge, right? And I know that people who are really pro Democrat and pro Kamala would be like, hey, like look at the stock market, it's gone up so much under Joe Biden, and look at like the employment reports, right? Unemployment spiked up a little, but now it's going back down, and the GDP is still growing. But I think that if you just ask people, like everyday Americans, if you just actually go on the ground and ask people just a simple question of whether they felt they were doing financially better under Trump or under Biden and Harris, I think that most people would say that they were doing better under Trump. Now, I don't know if there's where the disconnect comes from, where the on paper it looks like the stock market has done better under Biden and the GDP numbers look better under Biden, but it's not reflecting in the everyday working class for some reason. So, I don't want to get too deep into that, but I'm just telling you what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, right? And what I'm seeing is that for when you contrast Biden versus Trump's economy, people prefer the Trump economy. And this is what I was saying, how I was kind of frustrated where Trump was not like hitting this point enough, in my opinion, right? So during the debate, he went on this like aggressive rant about people eating cats. I think he totally missed the mark on that. He should have hammered on one simple point, which Kamala or Biden, either of them, have no response to, right? Like he should have just got up on stage, Trump, and been like, look, eh, I'm just going to ask you a simple question. Were you better off when I was president, or are you better off now after 3.5 years of Biden? And I think if he just kind of just hammered that point a lot, then there's no response. There's nothing that Kamala Harris or Biden can say, right? Because he's just literally asking a question and getting the American people to reflect upon their situation. So I think that that's the major reason why people are kind of starting to wake up and starting to kind of feel that maybe it's time to bring Trump back, right? And again, like I agree with Tristan when you said that this was definitely the Democrats' election to lose, and unfortunately, because they decided to go down this route of putting up these career bureaucrats, these career politicians. Biden and Kamala Harris are both just the stereotypical career politician, and especially Kamala, she you know waltz around and dances around questions and has a 30-second wind up before every single question, before every single answer. And she's just kind of very clearly hoping that you forgot the original question, uh, uh, so that she doesn't have to respond to the original question. And I think that the American people are going to reject that. But yeah, anyways, the second part of the story, we'll speak about maybe specific policies as to what went wrong with Kamala. But before I move on, I've spoken for a long time. I want to pass it to Dom, who I'm sure is dying to speak. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on this whole issue?
Yeah, so I had a chance to watch it. I had a bit of time yesterday, and like to be honest, I did watch it with 2.0 speed, but got the whole gist of the whole situation. At first and foremost, I felt like yeah, Fox definitely seems like a right biased news network, and they were hammering in on the questions. They weren't letting her speak and stuff. And I guess I do agree with Tristan. I don't know if that's the fairest, but when she actually had the chance to, like answer these questions and to agree with Andy, I felt like she was doing the whole 30-second wind up. And even when they had like those news clip examples, like, so what do you think of this then? And it rolls the clip and goes like, um, ever since the immigration's gone like loose, like my daughter died. Like first of all, I'm very sorry about that. You remember that one? Basically she was like dodging around it and stuff, and I think I remember another point where she was like, "Oh, I totally agree with like what Biden's doing in it and like his policies and things like this." And then like she had to switch it up. Oh, no, as just for a matter of fact, like I don't completely agree. I will change, but I feel like that's just like a front-facing excuse. And she was doing the whole like 30-second wind up thing, and then trying to figure out like how to like work out of this, or like what you were saying too, just for you to like forget. And I think what I'm trying to say, I'm like dancing around here is I don't know if the American people would so much as to agree with that, like what you were saying too, Andy. And yeah, fact of the matter is, this interview is super um like pressing on her, and I don't think she like like, successfully like handled the heat. So I think in the end it was her demise, and I don't even know why she agreed with the interview in the first place, but she did. God knows why. But yeah, after this, I don't think it looks too good for her, and we can only wait and see what happens in the final election. So yeah.
Okay, so first of all, I would have to say that there's probably a reason why you watched the interview on 2x speed because, as I said, it takes her 30 seconds to answer just the most direct question, right? Because after this interview, honestly, like I get what you're saying that maybe it's a little bit unfair because it's like, a hostile environment and all that stuff. And on that note, I said earlier, Trump does these like hostile interviews all the time, right? He goes on left leaning publications all the time, and maybe it is fair that if Trump is willing to go into hostile environments, then maybe like yes, it is kind of they're trying to direct questions in a certain way to make her look bad, but this is something that the other side has to deal with on a daily basis. So is it unfair or is it fair? I don't know. Maybe we can have a further debate or discussion on that. But yeah, on the 30-second wind up thing, you have to watch it on 2x speed, or else it just drags on forever, right? And the stuff about the middle class and how I grew up in a middle class, and that's just like the Trump card, right? Not no pun intended, but like I know like Trump is the one who's running on the Republican side, and she's the one trying to beat him. But apparently, according to her, she has the Trump card, and the Trump card is I grew up in a middle class, and that's her response to everything. And it just makes her look. First of all, it makes her look fake and inauthentic, and that's precisely the opposite of what she's trying to do with the middle class thing, right? Because she's trying to be relatable. She's saying, "I grew up in a middle class. I'm just like one of you," but the frequency that she's using that card is getting old really quickly, and it just feels rehearsed. And I think that that's a big like negative for her at this point. And I shared with you guys the meme. I'm sure you guys remember where it's like the water tank with the water leaking out and like the guy slapping like the tape on it to stop the leak, right? So the water tank is all the issues that America is facing, like whatever it be, inflation, border crisis, gun control, like whatever, right? And then Kamala Harris is the guy that has a tape. He like slaps the tape onto the water tank, and the tape is I grew up in a middle class, and that's basically like a catch-all for everything. And I don't think that that's going to work. I think people are going to reject that because it just makes you seem like how you do, fellow kids, like that other meme, right? So it has the opposite of the intended effect, which it makes her seem fake and inauthentic when she's trying to be relatable. So that's pretty much all I had to say about that. And I guess like we'll see if I'm right in about 18, 19 days, whatever it is, till the election. But yeah, if you guys don't have anything else to add, let's move on to the final part of the story, which actually is still related to the first thing that we to the previous part that we talked about, which is I want to delve a little bit deeper into examining why she's slipping in the polls and on Polymarket and all this stuff. So I know we touched upon a lot of that already, but let me just kind of share just one example of why I think America is going to reject her and just basically whatever she's doing, it's not going to work, and she's making a lot of mistakes. And this is a prime example of, I think, a big mistake that could tank her campaign, and it's been a big contributor to why she's dropped in the polls, in my opinion. So what is it? So she put out this kind of policy on her X profile on what she's going to do to support the economy. And let me just read you some of the points from the actual policy proposal. Right? I didn't Photoshop this. I didn't manipulate this. This is legit, word for word, what she said and what she posted on her own X profile. Right? I didn't make her do this. Nobody made her do this. Apparently she did this all by herself. So um, first of all, like, she's come out in support of digital assets and cryptocurrencies, where the Biden Harris administration, they appointed Gary Gensler, and they've been super hostile to cryptocurrency all this time. But apparently now she's trying to uh, pivot and support cryptocurrency. But I don't think it's going to work, because even when she proposes policies that support cryptocurrency, look how she's phrasing it, right? So her policy proposal is she wants to protect cryptocurrency investments so that Black men who make them know that their money is safe. So, first of all, like, why only Black men? What about Black women? Or what about like people of any race, right? Because America is a very diverse country. What if you're white? What if you're Asian, right? What about me? I'm Asian, so I guess I don't get to like be protected by whatever policy that Kamala Harris is proposing. If I was American, of course I'm not, but if I was an American, I guess this would not apply to me, right? So that's the first thing already. Is like a little bit eyebrow raising, right? And then another part is legalize recreational marijuana, which, I'm supportive of that position, by the way, right? And I think that that's maybe one thing that's good that Trudeau did in Canada, which is to legalize recreational weed. But look at what she says next, right? She wants to legalize recreational marijuana and create opportunities for Black Americans to succeed in this new industry. Again, why only Black Americans, right? Does people of any other race in America not deserve to find success in this new industry? Is she not going to help any other race? Is she only helping Black Americans? Right. And this is a post by Jason from the All In podcast. And I always say that we're kind of the Canadian All In podcast, and there's an equivalent personality to every one of the hosts. That's the equivalent on this show. And maybe I'll pass the question to you first, Tristan, because you're the personality equivalent of Jason Calacanis from All In. But Jason, he's more left leaning than a lot of the other hosts, and even he's kind of, I feel like he's at the very least not going to vote for Kamala Harris. I don't know if he'll go as far as actually voting for Trump, and he hasn't said what he's going to do, but even he's kind of raising an eyebrow at a lot of the stuff that Kamala Harris is doing. So uh, he basically, these two screenshots that I just shared, he just kind of recropped them and then tweeted. And what he said was, "Hey, if you're a Black man, is this insulting?" Right. So the implication is that if you're Black, then you need the government to kind of step in and help you protect you from cryptocurrency investments, because apparently, like, if you're Black, then you don't know what you're doing, and like you need the government to kind of pamper you and protect you. And with the marijuana thing, it's like, yeah, again, like, why are you targeting like this towards Black people? Are you saying that Black people, they smoke a lot and they, want to, they're like, committing crimes after smoking marijuana, whatever like the implication is, right? I think that there's like kind of a tone that is, some people can perceive as insulting. And I'm not just like, of course I'm not Black, so maybe it's, you can argue it's not my place to say it, but I have seen a lot of comments from people on Twitter who, I guess, from their profile picture, they appear to be Black and they claim to be Black, and they say, "Hey, like, I am Black and I find this insulting." So I think that this is kind of backfiring on Kamala a lot. And by the way, here's the full picture of the full policy. And I just took the two kind of maybe ones that stick out the most, but this is kind of the whole policy that she posted. So I also responded to this on X, where I said this in my I'm not a legal expert, but in my opinion, this has to be unconstitutional, right? You can't just have like a government program that benefits one race, especially this is for one gender too. It's not just black people, it's specifically targeted towards black men. So I believe that this would be unconstitutional. I don't know if you guys have more insights to it, but it, I don't think you can just make a policy that benefits one gender and one race, like specifically. So, anyways, this is just one example of what I think the Kamala Harris campaign is doing wrong, and is kind of patronizing, and it's going to alienate more people than it attracts, because people are going to see right through this, right? It's like, if you're black, I'm going to give you all these benefits, so vote for me, right? It's just very blatantly pandering, and I don't think it's going to work, and I think that people are going to reject this. So um, yeah, anyways, this is my opinion, so I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to respond to everything I said. Alternatively, you guys can also bring up other stuff that's not maybe related to what I'm talking about, but related to the topic of what you think, what mistakes the Democrats are making specifically. So mine, like me bringing this up, was just one example, but if you have any other examples of why you think the Democrats are dropping in the polls and what mistakes they're making, please feel free to bring those up as well. So, yeah, I said I'll pass it to Tristan first, right? So feel free to take it away.
Yeah, I think it's some kind of weird takes going on from them. I don't know why these statements needed to be explicitly for black men. It just seems a little bit, specifically the ones that were called out by Jason. I think those are, it just seems a little bit weird to have those be specifically targeted at black men. It just, I don't know, it feels a little weird. So, and I think that the Dems are definitely doing a lot of stuff like that, where it's they have some of this stuff where they say a lot of things that they're going to do, and it doesn't really seem to be communicated how that will come to be. So, for example, like um supporting education and mentorship programs that lead to good paying jobs. Okay, how? Right. And launch a national health initiative. Okay, what's the initiative? Where's the budget coming from? Like, I mean, I know it's kind of like a blur, but I feel like they're not doing a particularly good job of selling themselves on what's going on. So, yeah, I don't know. They're not doing a particularly good job.
Yeah, and also just to hit on some of the other points, right? Like support education training, the one that you brought up, but specifically for black men. Again, I think that a lot of people will find this insulting if you're black, because isn't the implication here that currently black men don't have education? They're in need of membership programs, and they don't have uh, high paying jobs because they lack education, they lack all these skills, right? Isn't that like kind of what the implication is, right? And maybe it's true for some people, but again, just if you're black, I would find this insulting. It's like, okay, I'm going to give you all these benefits, like as the government, me as Kamala Harris, the great vice president right now, going to be president soon, I'm going to dish out all these programs specifically for you because you're so poor and you're so uneducated and all this stuff. Like, it's very un-American too, in my opinion, right? Because America is built on this idea that it doesn't matter what race you are or what gender you are, you can succeed, right? And it's like when you're rolling out these programs that are like phrased especially in this way, where it's targeted towards, you know, just helping black men specifically. Again, I think it's really like it's missing the mark by a lot. So yeah, let me pass it to Dom now. Do you disagree or agree with anything I said? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, on an overall basis, like I think what you guys are saying is kind of right. Like I think it's weird how it's like specifically targeted towards like one gender, one race versus like, you know, America and even Canada, right? Where like a society of people mix cultures and like different like genders, you know, you know what I mean? But it leaves like a super bad taste in my mouth when you're just targeting one specific group of people, gender and race. So like what about the other sets of people? Like what about what does it entail for those people too? So I think this wasn't a really good play on her part and it could leave a super bad taste in people's mouths, just like ours. So I think she may have taken an L on this approach.